Ladies and gentlemen, we are about to record an audio podcast for your visual pleasure. I was trying to let them know it's an audio podcast, but not make it seem like they're getting something less if they're watching the video. Even though we don't have enough.
What's the thing that I do that makes Darren laugh uncontrollably every single time?
Oh man, there's so many things.
I know. There's one thing in particular that every time I can't.
In the industry, we call this fuzzing. You just, throw out whatever you got and see if it sticks.
I forget. There's one thing I know that always makes you laugh, and now I can't remember what it is.
We'll discover it by the end of this episode.
Yes, we will.
There's a known vulnerability in the Darren bot.
Yeah. There's an exploit. All right, here we go.
Yes, hi. I'd like to place an order for download. Can I have the Daily Tech News Show dinner special without the ads, not even on the side? And can I get that downloaded every weekday, please? Great. I'll be supporting with patreon.com/acedetect. Thank you.
This is the Daily Tech News for Friday, August 14th, 2015. I'm Tom Merritt. Thank you for joining us. Back from Defcon, Black Hat, and the 10-year anniversary of Hack 5 is Mr. Darren Kitchen. How's it going, brother?
What? I turned 10! I'm 10!
You're 10 years old. You're 10 years old.
10 years old. Well, in some ways, Hack 5 Darren is 10 years old, but that's neither here nor there. We had an amazing time at DEFCON. We had such a great crew. It was so great to go out with Shannon and Sarah and Jason, and Patrick Norton joined us too. There was mayhem galore. And so just overall, we're just excited to be here.
And that's what we're going to talk about later in the show, some of the things that Darren found, why they sound scary, and why maybe you don't need to be quite as afraid as the clickbait headlines would like you to be. Also joining us, Len Peralta in to illustrate the episode. Are your drawing fingers warm, Len?
Oh, absolutely. They're incredibly warm, and I'm ready to hit it in much the same way that Paul Stanley from Kiss hits it on stage every single night.
Man, you're really into the Kiss these days.
I am. It's pretty exciting stuff.
Yeah.
Anyway, I feel like some alcohol! Okay, never mind.
Can't top that. Let's just move right into the headlines. Here we go. So, Peter Kafka from All Things D reports Apple will bring out a $30 a month internet TV service. Wait, that's from November 2009. Sorry, Business Insider has the real story. Apple's on the cusp of a cloud-based, April 2011. Steve Jobs says he cracked the code on a TV internet. No, that's October 2011. Mac Rumors says Apple will have a streaming service by the end of the year. Oh, wait, that's March 2012. Apple Television will have no commercials and be controlled by a ring, says the Daily Mail. That one's from July 2013. Apple in talks with Comcast, says Wall Street Journal. That's March 2014. Here we go. New York Times reports Apple planning a low-cost streaming service by the end of, this one's from March 2015. Here we go. Bloomberg today reports Apple aiming to introduce a TV service in 2016, so the service is delayed. Does any of this stuff quote Apple? No, it doesn't.
Kudos, Tom. Kudos. That was epic.
Thank you.
But we can't lose hope. The dream is still alive.
The dream is totally alive.
Writing about it, we'll just do it.
For 6 years. Can't let it die now. It's the sunk cost
Apple
fallacy.
engineers somewhere are like, we're doing a what now?
Yeah. Previously on Stage Fright, a buffer overflow bug in a video processor threatened to infect 950 million Android phones, but 4 lines of code were brave enough to patch that vulnerability, and Google made that patch available. However, on today's episode, Jordan Gruskovniuk and Aaron Portnoy from Exodus Intelligence say that MP4 video that supplies variables with 64-bit lengths are still able to overflow the buffer despite the patch. So now we're waiting for a patch of the patch. And also Ars Technica reports MWR Labs disclosed a bug in the Android admin app that can subvert sandboxing that normally separates apps from sensitive data like passwords.
Well, thankfully Android now has a memory randomization technique that would make said buffer overflow just crash the device rather than potentially own it. We'll see. Also, just carry around a air-gapped burner phone that you never use. And that one will be secure.
That one will most likely be secure if you don't put any data on it, especially.
Don't take it. You know that new Nexus you just bought? Don't take it out of the box.
That's going to be really secure. It's going to be so
better
secure
in the box.
So Reddit got banned in Russia because of a threat about psychedelic mushrooms. We talked about this on the show. Within a day, they removed the post in Russia and got reinstated in that country. Now, lots of people like to be mad at Reddit these days, so you're going to see headlines about Reddit censoring in certain countries. Reddit does remove posts that are against laws in regions in which they operate. This is not unusual. Twitter does the same thing. Wikipedia does the same thing. TechCrunch reports Reddit told it, we receive a valid request from an authorized entity. Yeah, if we receive a valid request from an authorized entity, we reserve the right to restrict content in a particular country. Darren, does it bother you that Reddit is doing this? A lot of people were hoping. I think what happened is they took too long to respond, and that got them banned. And a lot of people thought, "Oh, this is cool. Reddit will take a stand against censorship in Russia." And they did what every other site does, which says, "Well, if it's actually against the law and it's a proven thing, we'll abide by the laws of the country we're operating in."
Yeah, that's a weird thing where it's like, well, you got to play by the rules of the game, except the game is existing in so many nationalities, and yet you exist in this kind of like cloud thing that is overarching over top of all of these nationalities, and so it's like, well, how do you win anywhere? And we don't want a fragmented internet. No, it's not surprising. In fact, I see this kind of stuff, and it's really just like, it's like drama on the internet. It reminds me of IRC so much, as if there was ever a drama there. But I just imagine, IRC.earth, and like, in Pound Russia, this dude named Reddit just got kick banned, and everybody's like, lol, oh my god. And then they were like, oh, we'll lift the K line. It's cool. You can come back.
And then other people are like, you should stay out of that channel. That'll show them. Just don't go back into that channel.
Don't go back. Don't go back to that channel.
I get the impulse to say, hey, Reddit, take a stand against this. This shouldn't be banned. But you have to choose those battles. Google did that in China. They don't operate a search engine there because they don't want to abide by the rules of the Chinese firewall. But that's pretty unusual. So,
right, and it's like it's like your friend that's kind of an a-hole sometimes, and you just like have to work within their capabilities because overall they're a good person, but they have these tendencies. And if you just like kick banned everybody that was ever an a-hole to you, you'd have very few friends.
Well, you're going to find a friend in the court of Australia if you downloaded the Dallas Buyers Club movie there. The federal court ruled Dallas Buyers Club LLC must pay $600,000 Australian bond to access details of customers accused of illegally downloading the Dallas Buyers Club, according to the BBC. The court had originally ordered ISPs to hand over the data on who downloaded what, but they put that order on hold in May pending a review of the letters and call scripts that Dallas Buyers Club wanted to use when contacting customers. After looking at that, Justice Nye Parham said, quote, "It seems to me that I should set the bond at a level which will ensure that it will not be profitable." He says you get to recover damages, but you don't get to just like rake in profits on this. So a very sensible ruling in my opinion.
Wait, you're saying that we can't use litigation as a means to profit?
As a business plan?
That's not a business model?
Apparently,
this is America.
Justice thinks that's not okay somehow.
But it's not
Australia.
America. That's what, yeah.
Engadget reports Samsung's attempt to appeal Apple's 2012 patent infringement victory has not met with as much success. It got turned down, in fact. Even with the backing of Google, Facebook, and Hewlett-Packard, the U.S. Federal Court of Appeals rejected the bid for reconsideration. That's according to the San Jose Mercury News. Remember, they lost the case back in 2012. They got charged $1 billion, and then the court reduced that to $548 million in damages. And following this latest decision, Samsung's got one option now. That's try to convince the Supreme Court to hear an appeal and potentially reverse the damages ruling. It's either that or pay up $548 million.
Ouch.
Yeah. Xiaomi has announced Chinese customers using its MIUI 7 OS powered handsets will get on-demand roaming data, according to the Next Web. MIUI 7 isn't out yet, but when it does come, it can create a virtual local SIM card based on your location. So you can use mobile data at an affordable rate without needing to switch carriers. Xiaomi says its average price for data roaming will be around 0.1 RMB, so about 2 cents per megabyte, and will support 36 countries and regions at launch, including Hong Kong, Taiwan, US, Japan, UK, Australia. Android MIUI 7 launches August 19th, but the support in those countries is only for Chinese customers. The virtual only only be available to Chinese customers.
That's the thing that I'm most interested about, is just the virtual SIM thing and how that works. Or if it's just like some boring roaming agreements, then I'm not really that excited. But if it's actually doing what it sounds like it's doing, I just want it to be in the hands of security researchers in China or otherwise.
Yeah, there's a lot of virtual SIM work out there, so I'm guessing when they say virtual SIM, they mean it.
Yay.
They could be fudging it and using it as a marketing term, but I kind of, from what I've read, I don't feel like they are. I think they're actually doing a virtual SIM, so yes. That's intriguing. Hey, we get intriguing news from you guys all the time at dailytechnewsshow.reddit.com, and we thank you for that. Anybody who sits here and thinks, wonder why they didn't cover that story, well, one way you can affect that is get into the subreddit and do some voting on the stories. starfuryzeta passed along the Recode report that 2 former employees of security company Kaspersky Lab alleged that the company tried to trick competing antivirus applications into classifying benign files as malicious. Microsoft, AVG Technologies, Avast, other rivals were supposedly targeted. Kaspersky Lab told Reuters, quote, "Our company has never conducted any secret campaign to trick competitors into generating false positives to damage their market standing." In fact, they say they've been a victim of that same procedure by others. It's a he said, she said. Unless you want to overparse it, Darren, and say no secret campaign. Maybe
Right.
It was just out in the open.
Well, no, I mean, this is the thing. It's like the whole, like, oh, you're alleged of something taboo, and it doesn't matter what's the truth, because now that's what's in people's minds. It sounds like an information or a misinformation campaign. And so it could be on either parties. So, or it could just be internet rumors.
Yeah, I mean, what is true is that false positives are perpetrated upon antivirus software. People do that. They try to make that happen. Who's responsible for it? Whether it's just people having fun, whether it's anti-competitive, that is to be determined. These 2 former employees seem to convince Reuters that they were credible, though, and so it's more than just internet rumors. But we still don't know if they're telling the truth.
Sure, it could also be like, hey, Antivirus, remember us? We're still a thing, as all of the Defcon Black Hat news goes on.
Yeah, no, that could be too. Hey, rejoice, for Hometown Rival has sent glad tidings from The Verge. The US FCC has approved iRobot's application to build a hands-free lawnmower. The mowing bot would operate through stakes in the ground that wirelessly connect the mower and map out where it should cut. So that approach required a waiver from the commission, which was granted despite objections from National Radio Astronomy Observatory, which is worried about interference with telescopes. FCC says, we don't think it'll get in the way of your telescopes. So yeah, I mean, folks made the Roomba, making a lawnmower is pretty exciting. Still not quite as autonomous as maybe my science fiction mind was hoping.
Well, if we can have self-driving cars, hopefully we can have self-driving robots.
Yeah, I mean, the Roomba can totally stay away from my furniture. It's not really that good at it.
What could go wrong?
What could possibly go wrong? And that is a look at the headlines. All right. Darren, as we mentioned, was at Defcon and Black Hat, and that means we had a week full of scary news that made lots of people try to hide their heads under their desks. We're going to talk about some of the scary news, some of Darren's favorites, and explore why they're your favorites. What should we start with?
There were so many. There's like a million runners-up that I couldn't even put into the doc because there was just a plethora of amazing things at both Black Hat and B-Sides and DEFCON. It's weird. Like, I wonder what normies feel about August. They must be like, oh my God, why is it that everything is broken in August?
All the cars got hacked. Why did they all get hacked this week?
Yeah, everything's always hacked in August. But no, it's because we just kind of clumped together all of the summer fun at the 3 biggest cons. So first up, Sammy Kamkar, you may know him from some of his other research, including Skyjack tools, which was basically Wi-Fi hacking from drones, as well as the key sweeper, which is like a little tool that you can like put somewhere that would like sniff up like Microsoft and Logitech Bluetooth, or not Bluetooth, but wireless keyboard keystrokes, which is pretty cool. New tool coming out of Sammy Kamkar named the Roll Jam, and this thing is pretty sweet. It's like a $32 little device. I know it's built on Arduino and some other radios, and essentially what it does is it sniffs up rolling codes from key fobs for automotive keyless entry as well as garage door openers. it's interesting in the way that it works. It basically jams the radio frequency that those two devices typically operate on, while simultaneously sniffing up what your key fob is actually saying.
So
Then
it's part pineapple-ish.
Yeah, part pineapple, except it uses jamming techniques, which is totally not cool with the FCC. So, like, don't expect to see this.
This is not a product you can buy. I got it.
No, and it really isn't something that it's something that you could absolutely get yourself in trouble with building, because jamming is totally not cool. But it's interesting that it basically prevents your key fob from speaking to the car by jamming that frequency while simultaneously sniffing up that code. Then when you press it again, what it does is it allows the first code to be retransmitted while keeping that second code to itself. So, I mean, as far as like an RF perspective, this thing really has to be, I can't imagine it being as simple to deploy as just like dropping it under a car. But it sounds pretty effective in that the way that the rolling code system works is, and you should do this next time you're at the pub with your friend and his key fob is like, you know, on the table and he goes to the washroom, just pick up his key fob and press the unlock button 256 times. Because he'll be very upset when he goes to get into his car again. Rolling codes are really amazing. But they're not cryptographically sound. They're a far cry from two-factor authentication. And yeah, it's a pretty cool.
They rely on an accidental system, right? Which is, well, once that code is transmitted, the car gets it, and then that's it. I'm
Right.
good. Nobody else can use it again. So it wouldn't have been transmitted if you weren't near your car. And that's what the system does: is it jams it so that it essentially captures a code that doesn't get used.
Exactly, and so that's the thing, is it's going to use whatever the highest code is, whatever the next unused code is, because it's taken care of, well, not a feature, but just the realities of RF, which is you're going to hit the unlock button, and sometimes it's not going to be in range. Sometimes your car's not going to hear it. It's not going to work. It's no big deal. So it's just trying to make that work for when it doesn't hear those things. There's obvious fixes for this, which would require actual challenges and responses. But for the time being, this kind of attack is successful against Nissans and Cadillacs, Fords, Toyotas, Lotus, Volkswagens, Chryslers, as well as alarm systems from the likes of Viper and Genie and LiftMaster garage door openers. So there's a huge swath of, in fact, Sam Camcar said, like, yo, dog, my car is vulnerable, but we're not going to fix these things, of course, until we know these things. And actually, this is building on some previous research from another security researcher last year, but this is really just making it a lot easier. So what happens is...
I think this is a really good example of, this isn't a vulnerability necessarily. This is someone figuring out, hey, the way the system is set up doesn't, you didn't think we could get around it, but guess what? I figured out a way to get around it. So
that's what we call vulnerability, Tom. So, I mean, it absolutely is. And I
guess when I say that, I mean, a lot of people think, oh, sloppy code. Not sloppy code. The system works fine. Somebody figured out that since you didn't secure it well enough, I figured out a way around your system.
Right. There's sloppy code, and then there's bad design, and then there's combinations therein. And so this is really just bad design, which was fine in a world where we didn't have software-defined radios and things of that nature that would make it very easy to perform these attacks. And so really it's all about mitigating risk, because you're not going to be able to prevent every single hack. What you're trying to do is make it so that it's not ridiculously easy for everybody to pull off all the latest and greatest hacksaws. So
and that's why you want these to be discovered and presented at conferences, so that the car companies know, okay, we've got to figure out how to fix that.
Right. And so now that it's easy, all of the companies that are involved here have to fix their stuff and make it more secure, and ultimately we all get better products for that. It's just a little bit more difficult when we talk about the Internet of Things and the meat space stuff, where it's like, well, I'm sorry, but your 97 Civic is not going to get patched. It's just not. It's end of life. I mean, it's a really cool car. You should just keep driving it.
Figure out another way to secure it. Maybe get a physical key in there. You can do it.
Some other stuff that's basically like lowering the barrier to entry when it comes to hacking is GPS hacking was big at Defcon this year.
You were talking about software-defined radio just now. That's one of the keys to be able to spoof GPS, which was nigh upon unspoofable previously.
Right. Lin Heng was the first Chinese woman to present here at Defcon and demonstrated a GPS spoofing attack that had previously required GPS emulators, which would cost thousands of dollars. But now that you can pick up a, say, open hardware hack RF for like $300 and use some, as she did, open source software from GitHub and some open source software-defined radio tools, she was able to basically emulate GPS signals at a higher, at a stronger amplitude than that of the actual GPS satellites, convincing a smartphone, a car, whatever have you, into thinking that it was somewhere other than where it was, which is really, there's like a lot of implications. I mean, not just the annoyance factor of like, we've all had it where our GPS like doesn't get a lock and it says you're in the middle of the Pacific, but this has some major implications. There's rumors in 2011 of an Iranian hacking team that supposedly diverted and landed a stealth U.S. drone from Lockheed Martin by spoofing GPS. When you put all of your trust into a system that you're like, well, the system is going to work because we built it and it's obscure and only we have the technology. Well, that's only going to work until suddenly everyone has the technology. So this is a really fascinating one because it's not very easy to go ahead and solve this as far as like the infrastructure, because it is so complex the way that GPS works, and short of replacing all of the GPS constellation, which would be ridiculously expensive, with a system that uses like challenging responses. I mean, the thing about GPS is it's totally passive. Your phone doesn't transmit anything when you have GPS
that's
enabled.
why you still use GPS even when your maps are offline.
Yeah, which is why you can turn on GPS when you're on an airplane, and it's really fun to see you're going 400 miles an hour. But yeah, so this is going to be a tough one to patch, and I really think that it's one of those things where you have to just say, like, okay, you can't just trust every piece of data coming in. So if my device is relying on GPS, it can't only rely on GPS. You have to also augment it with whatever other data you have, be it accelerometers or gyroscopes or things of that nature.
Yeah, and again, the lesson is not like, hey, this isn't scary. This is scary. That's good. We need to know about scary things that are possible so that we can figure out how to mitigate them by either looking for data sources that can augment the signal, or the harder project of getting people to figure out some kind of workable challenge response system for GPS. The joke on all of these things, Darren, is that if this, and this doesn't happen, you'll get killed.
That could happen.
That's not funny. But in some cases, like GPS, yeah, if GPS drove you off a cliff, that's dangerous. What I think is in some ways funny, unless it happens to you, is when you get killed but remain alive.
Yes, see, that can absolutely happen, and it would probably be even more so annoying than having your GPS take you to in and out when you were actually trying to go to Whole Foods. Yeah, this is actually a response to what happened in 2014 when a Melbourne hospital accidentally killed off like 200 people. Oops. And so it led an Aussie security researcher.
The people were still alive, mind you.
Oh, yes. We should probably preface this by saying they were legally dead, but they were still walking around. They were zombies. They were
illegally alive.
There was a conflict here. Yes. Chris Rock is a security researcher out of Australia, and he noticed this. And he was like, well, how easy is it to go ahead and report a death certificate? Because it used to be, all paper and stuff, but as governments want to streamline things, cut costs, things of that nature, they implemented online systems that, well, as he found out, were not very secure. And essentially, all it requires to proclaim somebody dead, at least here in the United States, is that you have that you register with a government website as a doctor, and then you have to also do the same thing again as a funeral director. And you can do both of those things very easily, because as a doctor, all you need to do is find a doctor that hasn't already registered on the system, and you just need their name and address and their medical license, which are totally publicly available. To do the funeral director, Chris Rock had just set up a fake funeral website and submitted himself, and then he got an automated call from the system a week later saying, "Cool, you look legit." And then once you have those credentials, you can go log into the website and say, like, yeah, Tom Merritt died from bacon overdose. It happened.
Yeah, it happens to people. And then I go to try to get my driver's license renewed, and they're like, "Oh no, sir, you're dead."
Yeah.
Which by the way has happened. Like there are stories out there of people who try to renew paperwork and get told that they are legally dead, and then they have to figure out how to prove that they're not and undo that. So that's no joking matter if it happens to someone. But what is in some manner of fashion laughable is that to issue a death certificate, you just need publicly available information. Like that's a pretty bad vulnerability there.
You know, and the more that I talk to security researchers that dig into the healthcare field, this is the norm, because doctors are busy and you don't want to bog them down with a bunch of like, you know, multi-factor crypto stuff. They just want to like save people, right? I would hope. And this is unfortunate that like a lot of medical devices are inherently flawed, and a lot of the practices and the processes are inherently flawed, and they don't get the attention they deserve. And the security researchers that do it are tread very lightly, because you know you could, like in this case, thankfully we're only talking about pronouncing people legally dead, but there's also you know, a lot of research in pacemakers and other medical devices that are just sorely lacking any sort of security, where you can't easily report this stuff the same way that you would like a website vulnerability or you know, stage fright in Android, because there's people's lives on the line. So
which is, again, in the end, I feel like this is a positive story still, because it means that now people are aware that this system is not secure, and we have a better chance of it being mended, and people realizing, oh, you know what, to issue a death certificate online, we really should ask for a little more private information or have some other way of authenticating people that makes sure that it's actually those people on the other end. And all of this sounds scary because it exists, but what's actually scarier are the things that are vulnerabilities that we don't know exist, because the ones we know exist are having a much better chance of being fixed.
Yeah. Then that's what Defcon is really all about, and that's what, you know, security researchers overarchingly are about, is bringing to light these things so that we can fix them. It's the black hats that aren't talking about the 0 days that you don't hear about for obvious reasons.
And by black hats, he doesn't mean the Black Hat Conference, which is actually a lot of white hat and gray hats.
It's a lot of suits, actually, but yes, a lot of shiny shoes, and we love them.
Pinstripe suits.
We love them dearly.
Yeah.
You know, and I should say that another positive spin on this is, I mean, aside from, you know, having to call up the dead to verify are you actually dead, there's good things to come out of this exact security research. In that, Chris Rock found that it is ridiculously easy to birth someone. It doesn't even take 9 months. You can just go ahead and create a new baby.
You can create life?
Yes, and then you can have a baby shower like that. Right?
Wow. So you register on Amazon, create the baby birth certificate. People ask to see the baby. You just like point and say, oh, she's sleeping.
Or actually you grab baby photos off Facebook, because don't they all look the same?
But when they come to the baby shower,
except for Rogers. Yeah. Rogers looks unique.
No, totally. Yeah.
Totally. But otherwise,
look anything like either of his parents.
Baby showers.
Yeah.
From hackers.
Well, thank you for sharing all of that, Darren. That's awesome. Go check out hack5.org, hak5.org, if you like to learn more about these types of topics.
Oh, yeah. We have an episode going up today where we talk to some security researchers on hacking IBM mainframes, as well as doing some man-in-the-middle attacks using USB injection to install certificates in Windows. Lots of fun.
All good stuff. Our pick of the day comes from patron James Burns, who writes, hello from beautiful South Lake Tahoe. Not surprisingly, given where I live, I do a lot of hiking and mountain biking. I also do search and rescue for El Dorado County. The one app that I use for all of these activities is Backcountry Navigator, speaking of GPS. The app allows you to download topo maps from multiple sources that cover the U.S. and several other countries, including maps from openandromaps.org. You can record your track and waypoints, import a track or waypoint, measure point-to-point distances, and get detailed info about your travel, including distance, time, elevation, and pace. My one concern when I started using this was battery life. However, using the app on my Galaxy S4 with the phone on airplane mode and GPS on, I've been out for more than 8 hours without running out of battery. The app does have a bit of a learning curve, and the website is not the most user-friendly, but the app is invaluable for what I do. So most of us are not going to be near the GPS hack demonstrated by Ms. Lynn earlier in the episode. So go check this out. It sounds like a pretty good app called Backcountry Navigator from James Burns. Recommended by James Burns, I should say. Send your picks to feedback at dailytechnewsshow.com. You can find my picks at dailytechnewsshow.com/picks. All right, few messages before we get out of here. Eric from probably hot Tulsa, but I'm currently in definitely hot Dallas for the Slot Car National Championships. Wow. That's an email in itself, just telling us where he is. Anyway, you touched on it, but I find the Samsung Pay simulated swipe gimmick too little too late because of chip and PIN. My main form of payment is my American Express card, and a few months ago they sent me a new one with the chip. But I continued to use it as normal until recently. Target, one of the stores I frequent, and also the reason I had to get a new credit card number a year and a half ago, has had me start using the chip reader function on cards that have it. This is ahead of the supported transition for all credit cards in October. Samsung promoting a feature that will only work on a few phones for a couple of months seems silly. Also looks silly, just my 2 cents. Support in October is true, although not every merchant is going to be converting. It just switches the liability to them at that point. But thank you, Eric, for this email because, yeah, Samsung Pay is great because it emulates magnetic swipe. But with chip and PIN coming, it makes it a little less useful, and the fact that it's now limited to Samsung still, it starts to make me wonder if it is as big of an advantage as it sounded like to me. I don't know, payment systems, man.
Too many payment options. I mean, like, long are the days where it just used to be, what, checks, credit cards, and cash? Yeah.
Yaru from I Miss Wisconsin Winters, Malaysia, says, up until a year ago, I studied in the States for a few years. There was this one time in summer of 2011 where I left Malaysia and almost nobody had tablets in public. When I came back in summer of 2012, everybody and their brother had them. I've seen them being used on TV, which was never a thing before. It just exploded during the 9 months absence of mine. This is just anecdotal evidence. You guys already have the stats mentioned, but just an interesting story that relates to the topic. It was something that was very noticeable. So, yeah, just over a couple of years, suddenly everybody had tablets. Kind of like waking up from a long nap when you're away from a country like that, and you go back and like, whoa, everybody's on tablets now. So thank you for that, Yar.
Yeah, I was looking back at some of the like season 1 stuff as we just celebrated 10-year anniversary, and I'm like, wow, iPhones didn't exist, tablets didn't exist.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember helping you make a joke about putting Verizon on an iPhone because that was a big deal at the time. Yeah.
Yeah. So much shit. So if you had just woken up from that, you would be very confused. Samsung Pay? What? Who is Samsung?
No, you knew Samsung. They made the flip phones, right?
Oh, you're right. They made the flip phone.
William Madison wrote in and said he thinks the restriction of Google is exactly what is recommended when setting up an asset protection plan, and that does jive with some of the things they're saying. He says in real estate investing and business development, the best recommended structure is to set up an umbrella management holding company. You then set up management agreements with each corporate entity below that managing company. This structure greatly reduces both the piercing of the corporate veil and protects personal assets and wealth from legal actions, although I think they have already done that part of it even before forming Alphabet. Anyway, Williams says this restructure protects each entity from being dragged into legal action that now have to be directed at a specific entity and not Google as a whole. That all makes perfect sense, William. Thanks for sharing your expertise, and I think it does shine a little more insight onto some of the side effects of what they're doing. Although most of the legal action is pointed at Google, and most of that legal action is still going to be pointed at Google, but it does have the effect of shielding XLab, Nest, etc. from any legal action that is pointed at Google at that point.
Right, and this is exactly why Hack5 is owned by the Scheinhart Wig Company.
Love the Scheinhart Wig Company, one of my favorites. Newly minted patron Wes writes, I've been an electrician for over a decade, and in my work, I've often been amazed by how far behind residential wiring and appliances are compared to their commercial industrial counterparts. Many of the concepts you guys are talking about, like greater automation, predictive computing have been present in industrial wiring for years. I know that part of the problem has been the cost of implementing the various technologies on a mass scale, but I'm so excited to see the continued progress of mixing technology in our homes in a functional rather than just an entertainment way. I think we're just barely touching the way smart homes can enrich our lives by assisting the elderly or disabled, providing after-school care for kids, healthcare monitoring. The possibilities seem almost limitless.
Isn't that how it typically happens, though? You know, it starts off like big engineering stuff and then trickles down.
Yeah, it gets
I guess it works both
gets
ways.
micro-sized. Is that the opposite of super-sized, I guess? Anyway,
Yeah, I'll go with that.
I always love it when we get somebody who's got a specialty like Wes, who's an electrician, who can share that perspective. Like, yeah, man, I've been seeing this stuff, and I've been waiting for it to come to the home, so I'm really excited that it's finally starting to make its way over. It's fantastic. And fantastic to have you back, Darren. My apologies that I'm going to be gone next week, but at least we've got 1 week in August. And folks, again, if you want to know anything about the hacking world, you have to check out hack5.org.
Right, there's 10 years of shows to catch up on.
Yeah, get to work. You got a lot of watching and listening to do. And HAK5.org is not just the place for Hack5, but ThreatWire, Metasploit Minute, TechThing, so much good stuff there.
Yes, and you can find, in fact, we've got a new video series on the Land Turtle, which we just released, which is kind of a companion device for any sort of systems administrator or penetration tester or just overall geek that wants to have remote access to a network anywhere. It's a surreptitious little Ethernet USB dongle that does all sorts of fun VPN and SSH goodness. So check that out, hak5.org.
It's a great way to learn. Darren, Len has been hard at work on something that has you in a top hat.
It's a black hat.
I love that.
It is! I get it now. So dumb.
Gotta keep Tom in it.
Exactly. This piece is actually called Darren Does Defcon. And there's a lot of text here, which I will read. It says, founded Defcon Black Hat, this tiny device has the ability to right all social wrongs, predict the winner of the 2016 presidential election, solve world hunger, prevent massive global financial chaos, and stop Len Peralta from drawing Tom Merritt as if he looks frightened all the time. Oh, it can also virtually kill or birth anyone, so there's that too. But all anyone wants to do is use it to remotely cut their neighbor's lawn. And I spelled out.
I see you're fixing.
And so this is an interesting one because Darren is wearing the black hat. There's the DEFCON thing, but this marks the occasion where I'm thinking I'm going to introduce Angry Tom, a new character.
Wow. Why am I so angry?
Because the device has stopped me from drawing you frightened.
Oh, because I don't have to be frightened anymore?
Well, he's angry because people are only using it to cut their lawns.
Yes,
right,
exactly.
Right. I am my sense of self-righteousness has been affronted.
I gotta say, drawing Angry Tom, it makes me feel bad because that's not really you, Tom. But it's like Bizarro Tom.
Deep in my black little heart, that's what I really look like. You've captured my soul, Len Peralta.
He's definitely captured me. I've got the device that cures world hunger. You can buy it in a 3-pack.
Yeah, that's awesome. You wear a black hat like that, man. That top hat looks good on you.
It looks good. Yeah, it's very stylized Darren this time.
Well, it was actually, that's very much so in the theme of this year's DEF CON, which was noir.
I did not know that. Wow.
You just tapped right into that, Len.
There you go.
Actually, I did know that. I had to work that in, of course.
So LenPeraltaStore.com, if you want to take a look at it, folks on the audio podcast, you got to check this out, and you can buy a copy of it there, but you can also get the digital versions of these automatically if you back Len on Patreon.
Yes, patreon.com/Len, L-E-N.
And that's it for us. Thank you to everyone who supports the show. If you're in a row of 6 people, look to your left and look to your right, and one of those people in the row, maybe it's you, is supporting the show, and they're paying the way for everybody else. So what I tell folks is, look, I understand not everybody has the means or even the ways to support the show, whether it be by Patreon or PayPal or even the store, but you can tell somebody about it. So go tell folks about Daily Tech News Show if you enjoy it, and spread the word so that more people can enjoy the show. As I mentioned, I'm out next week for the shooting of the last episodes of the Connected Tech series, but you'll be in good hands with our contributors. Our email address is feedback@dailytechnewsshow.com. Our phone number is 512-59-DAILY. That's 593-2459. Listen to the show live Monday through Friday at 4:30 p.m. Eastern at alphageekradio.com, and visit our website, dailytechnewsshow.com. Veronica Belmont hosting the show Monday. She'll talk to you then.
This show is part of the Frog Pants Network. Get more at frogpants.com.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.
Well played. What should we call that?
The best show ever with
Robots,
Angry Tom.
get on my lawn. That's Silverblade.
Get off my
I think
lawn.
there's only one possible title, which is Robots, Get on My Lawn.
You know what? That would have been perfect if Len, we could have gotten a picture of who's that old codger that's always on Twit?
Which one?
Who's that?
You talk about Dvorak? Because that's, that's what jumps to my mind. You couldn't remember Dvorak? John Dvorak's name?
I've talked to the guy like 6 months ago. I spaced on it.
Oh, please. You've known him for 10 years. More.
I've known of him for 10 years. No, he needs to be on a riding lawnmower, jumping, like trying to jump over lawns.
Someone said this should be your Twitter avatar, Tom.
Well, you know what's going to be interesting is previously with iRobots we had cats riding on them, the Roombas. What's going to ride on the lawnmowers? I mean, will dogs finally have their day?
I don't think dogs like that. Do they?
You don't think so? You don't think dogs like riding
would
on
frighten
robots in the lawn? I mean, dogs love backyards and lawns, don't they?
Yeah, but they like running on them. I don't think they're not cats.
Well,
They don't
I'm
like
predicting
birches.
a series of videos of dogs getting into heated debates with said lawnmowers.
Well, it seems like a bad idea to have any animal or baby riding on something with automated blades, but call me crazy.
Mm.
You know what? In California, that may no longer even be an issue because people are going to have to convert to non-high water demand foliage.
You know,
front lawns,
actually,
like rocks
that's a
and
good
stuff.
point. Maybe they'll have for the California market a modified robotic lawnmower that instead of cutting the grass actually spray paints it green.
Well, you're gonna need some big dog type machine that can climb up all the rocks in the xeriscape lawns and trim the little like sagebrush and switchgrass that's growing.
If they can make one with a camera on it and a little LiDAR, so it could do like a perimeter security if you like own like a warehouse or something,
Oh,
instead of just having cameras everywhere.
And then we could attach some guns to it, like that guy with the quadcopter did a few weeks ago. And then we could send it down the DMZ of North Korea.
Wait,
oh wait,
what?
no, I think they already did that.
What? No, I'm just you just need a little sentry robot. That's it.
Can it go? Are you still there?
Well, I do believe you should have a speaker on it so you can talk through it.
Are you still there?
Daddy, is that you?
This post show got weird fast.
Yeah, it did.
Well,
that's
if
what
you
happens
played
when you have the
Portal, it
perfect
didn't.
title right out of the gate. I mean, Robots Get on My Lawn is obviously the title.
Yes,
so
it
we
is.
were left with
What
to
else
our
was
own
there to say?
devices.
You know, it's interesting. I just thought of it. This is totally random for anyone who wasn't here at the beginning of the show, but it ties in Kiss and drones, and that's the movie Runaway, starring Tom Selleck and with Gene Simmons. He's a baddie in that movie, and he uses these floating, and it's kind of cool because it's one of the first movies where I've seen kind of the small personalized drone being used as a special effect, and it's these basically single rotor drones that come in and they spray gas, or they're used by the police as remote operations vehicles that go into a house or something to scope it out without having to send someone in. It's a really interesting movie. It's based on a Michael Crichton book, I think, also titled Runaway.
As is all of our life.
I just need there to be a movie of Demon now, and then I can die a happy man. Well, or you can.
Not really about movies based on Michaels these days, however loosely.
Oh, you know what you should watch?
Whipping our butts in the movie draft.
Do you like horror movies, Darren, or not really?
No, I absolutely do not watch horror movies.
Because I would suggest Demon Seed for you.
Demon Seed.
Have you seen that movie, Len?
No, I have not.
Oh, it's great. It's very 70s. It's very 70s,
Yeah.
but it's.
It sounds like something
horror
out of the
movies?
70s.
No, I recommend Demon Seed. Anyway.
Oh, no, because it's basically a computer a household computer that controls the home that this guy builds and installs a prototype in his house that he wants to sell, and it basically takes over the house, takes his wife hostage to use her as a receptacle to grow a body so he can be human.
The Internet of
And then he fakes the fact that the wife is sick because he's on a business trip. So anyone who comes to the door, there's a little screen that says, "Oh, I can't come because I'm sick." And it's really interesting. It just totally reminded me of a lot of the stuff. So,
1977, Demon Seed.
I am alive.
Dean Koontz wrote the novel.
Oh, okay, that makes sense then.
From Flight of the Intruder to that.
I read a Dean Koontz novel once.
Flight of the Intruder? No. That's the only one I remember.
Regina Preciado made me read it.
Oh, was it punishment?
No. She's like, I think it's really good. You should read it. I'm like, all right.
I haven't talked to her in ages.
Me either.
And by the ages, I mean like 8 years.
And we're talking about somebody that nobody else knows. That's always a good discussion.
I'm sorry.
Nah, I started it. My own fault.
Right.
Hey, so how about Mike Zimmerman, my childhood friend from kindergarten? Anybody seen him lately?
Oh,
I know it's Zimmerman, but not him.
Isn't he the kid that smelled like potato soup?
No. That was a different kid. Mike was the pig farmer.
Okay.
I mean, literally, his dad was.
I've never known anyone to smell of a particular object until college. And it was
this kid in high school, man. No, it was a girl that smelled like potato soup.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and then this other kid, hey, while you're looking for your friend Zimmerman, look for my friend Mark Need, who I tore a tuft of hair out of his head during a fight.
What?
This sounds like Tell It Anyway material.
Oh, yeah.
I wasn't fighting him. I was watching two people fight. He was fighting my friend, and I wanted to grab him off of my friend, so I grabbed him by the head and pulled all this straw-like hair. It was the weird. I'm like, and I remember looking at my hand, going, "Ah, what is
green?"
this?
And you were angry, and
Yeah, it was dry.
Len, you're a lot more vicious than I thought.
It was very upset. No. You know, your emotions run high when you're 7 years old and your friend is getting beat up. I mean, you want to protect them.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Weird stuff.
All right.
That's why we don't let 7-year-olds.
I gotta go beat up some 7-year-olds. I will.
oh, don't do that.
Aw.
Darren, no.
Yeah, I do too. And I
Remember, Darren,
Well,
Demon
no.
Seed.
I'm gonna do everything I
Demon
can
seed.
do to make the internet a better place.
Good. I like that.
Remember, we have a free pack that'll feed the children.
At the hack shop. Check it out.
Backs up.
Nice.
All right.
I'm
cheers,
gonna
guys.
log off too.
Yeah, man.
Seeing ya.
Bye.
Bye, Len.
Bye. See you later.
Bye, Len.
Bye. We'll talk soon, Jenny.
Yes, absolutely.
Excellent. All right. We'll see you.
Now I will bore you with stories of being at a late night talk show taping. So I was in line.
Tom, have you done, not to cut in your story, but have you done the thing where LastPass automatically changes all your passwords?
No, I do not trust that. Even though
Terrifying.
I'm sure it's fine, but
It's just running things on my computer. I was just doing it, watching it, and going, this is terrifying.
I have a really bad. I know it's probably totally unfounded, but bad feeling about LastPass or other password managers. Like they'll build up such a critical user base at one point, and then someone says, "You know what? You want all your passwords? Boom, you pay up."
Well, I already pay.
More.
no, I mean it's an unfounded fear in that that's the same fear you should have about banks. You keep your money in a bank, and one day the bank just may go, "We're going to keep your money," right? And it's happened in history, but it's not likely to happen, and I don't think it's likely to happen in LastPass. I think, but there is something to the idea of like, hey, you're keeping all of your security in one place, and it's not entirely under your control.
Which is why I don't personally memorize. I know.
That's why Roger puts all his money in his mattress.
I don't use a mattress for that. All right. I use a combination of cement and brick.
Yeah. I mean, we do all kinds of things that are horribly insecure, like trust that pieces of paper will continue to be accepted as currency.
Yeah. In my mind, it's just like passwords have reached there are just so many sites that we use now that there's just no other option. Like, to me, there's no other option.
I don't know. I don't agree with that. I actually don't.
I'm shocked, Roger. I'm shocked to like some level of my core that I don't even fully understand.
You've shaken her.
Do tell us how you are shocked that you disagree and are shocked.
I think that's just Tom projecting onto you.
No.
No, it's a joke.
No.
I'm not contrary. Why does everyone think I'm contrary?
I don't know, Roger. Why would anyone think that
You're the funniest contrarian I've ever met. How's that?
Oh, no.
It's one of those things.
Cheerful contrarian. It's not a.
I'm not cynical.
No.
I'm just saying, like, it's possible. What I did eventually, and I actually have to thank Robert Heron for this, is when you have the ability, especially on sites that allow you to use longer passwords, I make up common phrases that are theme-based for certain things. For example, if I'm buying something, like sites like Amazon, I have a certain theme for those passwords. And then if it's something like finance or something, those have a particular theme. So every group has a particular theme with minor changes in them between them, but they also get rotated out every 6 months.
Fair enough.
Yeah,
but that sounds like a lot of work, and I think I'd rather have LastPass.
A lot of people would not be able to make that system work for themselves because they just couldn't remember it, and so then they default to using the same password places and things that are less secure than a password manager. So it's all in that continuum of security, right? Password managers are recommended by security professionals often because they're much more secure than what the person has been doing to that point, right?
That is true.
It doesn't make them the most secure thing you could possibly do.
Yeah. And I also trust them to be the people who are better at fixing it if it goes wrong than I ever would be. If that makes sense.
But if you want to avoid any headaches, never attach your bank account to any other system.
Oh, yeah, well.
Again, it goes back, if you want to avoid any headaches, don't keep your money in a bank. I mean, there is a line you have to draw somewhere.
You're making my baby cry.
I know. I'm sorry, Ellie. Stop with your slippery slopes.
We should do a show, Tom, you and I, where we talk about things like this.
We should. In fact, we should do one before this month is over.
I agree.
Hey, you know what? We're 2 months away from our 10-year East Meets West anniversary.
Wow. You hear that? Our show is older than you. Older than you.
Well, a lot of things are older than Ellie. I mean,
there's not much that's younger than Ellie. A few things.
Oh.
All right, I better go.
Late night career. All right, bye, Ellie.
Do you need me to do anything out of the ordinary?
No, I'll do the video. I gotta figure out a new way to do it because
okay. I mean, if you can do it, I can do it. All
right, if you got the time, I wouldn't mind. I got Matt here. We're gonna go do errands like a boss.
Okay, yeah, that's cool. No worries. Right. I got it.
Thanks,
bye, everybody.